Michael, welcome back. We're going to cut
Yeah.
through some noise and get straight into what actually drives AWS partner revenue.
Yeah.
Just to introduce us to the channel. So I'm Andrew Morris and joined again by Michael. Today we're moving a little bit upstream because the truth is most ISVs never become co-sell ready in the first place. And if you're not co-sell ready, your listing will always flatline. So the next between 10 and 15 minutes, we're going to give you that 30-day co-sell readiness reset, a bit of practical and tactical grounded experience, just some insight into that. So let's start with the uncomfortable bit. As I mentioned before, most ISVs generally believe that they're co-sell ready because they've got leads. They did a webinar or someone told them AWS would bring them leads, which is classic. But the AWS field doesn't behave that way. They care about one thing: does this help me retire quota? And
Yeah.
that's where the misalignment kicks in.
They privately care about that. Publicly, they care about, does my customer get to their business revenue financial goals with AWS or partner technology?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, just what are your thoughts on that in terms of the readiness of ISVs? And do you see that trend a lot of the time with the ISVs that you're not necessarily you've engaged with, but certainly within the community, the PCAN community?
Yeah.
What's your feedback? How do you see that?
So this is, honestly, this journey with you and this series is so relevant because for anyone who didn't know, today is my 1 month like leading our cloud partnerships, primarily AWS for a big ISV. And by the way, it's big. It's still startup. It's 800 people, 800 customers, hundreds of millions of ARR, but it's not that big. And it is impossible, I think, to be great at any of these disciplines. It's really complicated, and you would have to have a pretty big staff without revenue, right? Predictable partner indirect revenue to make these big investments. And co-sell's one of those things where if you're doing anything, you're already doing it okay.
Yeah.
And depending on how many people at this company wake up every day and think my job is co-sell all the time, it's going to be hard to be great at this. But what's topical and timely is I had my first QBR yesterday, and
Mhm.
obviously it's not, for me, it's not a look back. It's just, what are we going to do better, different? What are the, I always think of threes or fours because you can't really have more than three or four bullets.
Yeah.
But what are we going to do differently today? And as I'm collecting data, again, let's just say the pipeline is 100% of a pie. And I don't know how good it is because honestly, it's been one person scrambling to do everything, create private offers globally, like co-sell, teach. That's impossible. So what I think about is, of the 100% of the pipeline, how much of it is actually in ACE or being co-sold today as an example? And the answer is there's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
Let's just say it's 10%. Awesome. How do we make it 20, then 40? Let's say it's 50%. Great. That's like a lot. But like, how do we make it 60%, 70%? And then when you start unpacking it, is it just sharing? Is it actual co-sell? Then I start thinking about enablement. So what do? I go set up a bunch of one-on-ones with reps. How do you think I throw a dart at a dartboard? No, I go find the leaderboards. I go figure out who the top reps are. And I go want to ask them, like, how's it going? What do you think about AWS? Where'd you work before versus now? How long you been here? How's that been? What'd you see there? What'd you see here? And I'm really trying to unpack, but what I'm thinking about is what you talked about. Where's the expectations, but also like, where's the skill?
Yeah.
And if you don't expect the right outcome, then you're probably going to have a gap. But I didn't plant that seed in your head that if I did 5 marketplace deals, 10 more marketplace deals were going to rain from the skies. Or if I co-sold one or two deals, that same AWS rep or that PSM was going to go walk me into 5 more accounts.
Mm.
Like, those things can happen, but I think the right word is it has to be intentional.
Yeah.
And you have to create a situation where those things that you want can happen. And I never blame my AWS rep or my rep because it's quickly for an opportunity and then they move on to the next most important thing. So I think really that's where the partner team has to figure this out, teach, mentor, enable, set expectations, but curate these ongoing things to build these lasting relationships. But co-sell is important. It's probably never perfect, but more and better you can get at some of these things. We could dig into some of this stuff. We might not cover it all.
And so making sure that story, not only within the ISV or that partner, is aligned, but then also on the AWS side, as you're starting to engage with your contacts, making sure that they're aligned with that superpower, that differentiator, and what's in it for them. And then the second piece I heard was very much that internal readiness, understanding how the AEs think, which are going to be your champions, how they behave, what's their talk track, but also what's their go-to route on a day-to-day basis. How do they approach their day? And then ultimately, and I think this is related, and we've spoken about this before, when you get champions, is proof by wins. As soon as you have something, you celebrate, you go for it.
That's exactly right. And actually, I'm staring at handwritten chicken scratch that I wrote, and it was basically this conversation with my team first, but also even role playing. I was like, cool, I'm Jane Doe. I'm the top rep in the company. You be you. Let's talk. Like, how does that conversation go for you? What do
Yeah.
you say? And usually you're talking to my sales team. Actually, I call them, they're the tip of the spear. The entire company is working to make you successful. Of course, we're building products and that's what we sell. But really, when it comes to if you hire a sales team, the sales team's the tip of the spear.
Yeah, execution on.
So it doesn't matter what my title, like I work for you. Like in the greatest companies, an engineer, support, sales, alliances, we all kind of work for the sales team. It's a hard job. So I always think about I work for you. My job is to make you more successful. I think of fish better, hunt better, whatever your sport is, but that's my job. But I'm not doing your job. So maybe I'm out there polishing your arrowhead to make it sharper or whatever, or I'm putting feathers on the back of your quiver to make it more streamlined. And I always think of these analogies, but I usually talk to reps like that. But I also say, hey, we're building this partnership. Like our job is to build this great partnership with AWS, this long-term best friend partnership. But newsflash, like they're going to measure us against 150,000 other partners. Name your favorite big ISV. We're this little one. We got to go get time and attention. How are you going to do that? And the currency that I have to do that, pipeline revenue and like super bonus points for marketplace revenue.
Yeah.
So when we talk about co-sell, what's pipeline? Qualified pipeline. What stage is qualified in our conversation? Oh, for us, turns out it's stage 4. Okay. Then at what point should we even share that to AWS? What point should that show up where we can go engage and have a conversation? So I think you have to break down all of these things. We're not going to cover all this stuff, but I really start thinking of I usually start with my sales team first. There's a bunch of other things I can do, co-build, market, like everything else. I want to collect all that data. But if I and my team's going to have the biggest impact to the company, it's going to be from affecting revenue in some way. Adding to it, amazing, but that's really hard. But can I speed it up? Can I make my hunters better, faster? Can I bring credits or tactics to the party that help us drive predictable revenue faster? I think that's something we can touch on. So I'm super passionate about co-sell, but it's to be excellent, there's a lot of things you have to do all the time. But fundamentally, enablement is it, and you're right, the right words, the right expectations, the right activities.
And then if you were coming in to a partner and you had to reset, what I heard in terms of it's a bit of a headline, in 30 days, the first week is very much diagnosis. Is that what you were saying?
The way this works, if you want, it starts with you, your pipeline, selling, winning, celebrating the wins with almost no expectation of return. But if I'm going to start to make friends in those segments, because it turns out maybe it's healthcare or insurance, and I've sold to 2 or 3 insurance companies already, like all the clouds pretty much have verticalized and centralized those teams. How would I know that? In ACE, if I look, I might see the same sales rep on those 3 insurance companies, but probably I might see the same PSM.
Yeah.
So the truth is, PSMs are a one to many, right? PSM leaders are one to many. So if I were to go phone a friend and tell the story about insurance 1, 2, and 3, here's the wins, here's the before and after state, all the metrics and stuff we talk about in sales process. Business value we implemented 60 days ago. Look, they're already getting value. I have a good story. Storytelling is critical to go sell. But do you think AWS has 3 insurance customers? No, they have a lot. My pipeline, I already know I've got 5 targets, maybe some pre-qualified MQLs. I've got stuff in the pipeline there, but it's not mature enough. I want to go see. I want to go shop that with the PSMs at AWS, the PSM leaders at AWS, or I probably have a relationship. But that's the way I'm going to go try to find a way into or accelerate earlier stage pipeline. Create or accelerate. So it's a sales play, but that's how you start fishing for that. I'll throw another tip, which is a misconception that a lot of companies and sellers think is that somehow marketplace, that fulfillment and co-sell are bound together. So I find a lot of misconceptions that like a rep's, we probably shouldn't co-sell this because I don't think they're going to buy through the marketplace. And I'm like, man, these are completely independent. There's value in both. Where the customer decides to buy is ultimately their decision, but we're happy to sell that way. Maybe our sellers hopefully are comp neutral, so there's no additional friction. But co-sell in its own is incredibly powerful. I will steal from Pecan's founder. He calls it the 3 I's. What could you expect? Information, influence, and introductions. And introductions are harder. You probably haven't earned the right depending on where you are in the sales cycle, but exchanging, hey, information to help you sharpen your sword, help you hunt that deal faster, that's incredibly powerful. So I think one of the first things I find is these are 2 parallel paths. Sure, they could end at the same. Yes, there's positive benefits for AWS and the AWS sales team if it closes through the marketplace, but selfishly, co-sell should help us sell more. And then what I explain is why we're an AWS customer. We're built on AWS. AWS, my account manager, they want us to use more services and spend more money and always say, cool, I need more customers. Like we spend more, the more we consume based on customer adoption. So this is where AWS calls this the dual flywheel, but it's where a lot of ISVs to sell to other companies, but are also partners. They're consumers, they're customers, but they're also partners. And so when you hire that person, you start doing activities like co-sell or co-build, you enter that second flywheel of just being a customer. You actually now are partnered.
Thank you very much. Again, just to wrap it up, I think that's the 30-day co-sell readiness reset. In terms of a little bit more information, we talk about the master power that really helps that co-sell readiness. And Michael, thank you very much. Great insights as always.